Hey everybody, I'm Denise from Stemtastic, and today we're going to be talking about zip lines and learning about how to build a zip line and also learning about how zip lines are actually used. So when we think of zip lines, I'm sure many of you guys think about we have an adventure park here on Long Island, right, where you can zip line all over the place. They have lots of different places you can visit that have huge zip lines where you put on a harness and you're attached to these ropes and you go flying down, and it's for entertainment, right? It's an adventure. It's really super fun. So that's one of the ways that we think of zip lines. But zip lines are actually used quite a lot by NASA engineers for exploration on the moon, as well as the engineers actually need to practice using zip lines in order in case they need to make a quick escape, because a zip line would be the fastest way to travel, really. If you needed to exit from your space shuttle, right? So they actually are used for scientific purposes as well, and they're also a ton of fun, right? Which is the main reason why we use zip lines. So the first zip line that I'm going to recommend that we build is one that would be for, I have my little astronaut here, but perhaps you have a little Lego figure, a mini figure, or we're just going to design like an amusement park ride, as that would be a zip line. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. You're going to need a couple of materials. You're going to need a paper cup. A small one is best. If you have a bigger one, you can just cut it down, but one of these paper Dixie cups is best. You're going to need some string, and you're going to need a scissor, and you're going to need a hole puncher. Okay, so the first thing that I want you to do is I want you to take your cup and I want you to punch 2 holes on either side using your hole puncher. Mine are already punched here, but you're just gonna come down about a ½ inch towards the rim of the cup. It doesn't have to be exactly a ½ inch, but about that much. And you want the holes to be on opposite sides. Okay, so one on this side and then one on the opposite side. Now, I'm going to cut this ribbon off because I want to show you how we're going to tie this. Okay, so you're going to take a piece of string. Any string that you have handy is fine. And I guess that's about 3 inches long. You want it to be long enough to be thread through your cup. That's why you have 2 holes on opposite sides of each other. So you're taking your thread and you're threading it through from one side of your cup to the other side. My cup happens to have 4 holes in it, but yours really only needs to have 2. So now you're going to tie a double knot up at the top, okay, so that it's nice and secure, like this. And I'm going to, anything that's left over, any leftover string that you might have, you just can snip that off because that's not necessary. You just want to make sure that this is nice and secure, that this is not going to untie. Now, one of the things you're going to have if you are rock climbing or if you're zip lining, you have something called a carabiner. And the carabiner is that metal clip that you attach it to your harness, and then you attach it to the line. So you want to, that's a metal clip, and you want to make sure, obviously, that that's really secure, because if that were to ever break off, that's your life support system. That's what's going to keep you attached to the line and attached to your securely attached to your harness. So that's the most important part of the zip line. We're going to use a metal paper clip for that. And if you notice on the paper clip, it has the cool thing about the paper clip is the way that it weaves around like this. So we can make sure that we secure this basket to the carabiner, which we're going to secure to the line. So what I want you to do is look at your paper clip, and you see the outside part of the paper clip, this part that bends out like this. That's where we're going to slide the basket through. Now, if I leave it like this, guess what can happen? This can pop up and fall off, and we don't want that to happen. So what we're going to do is thread it through, around again, all the way around, so that now your basket is secured on the inside part of the paper clip. So it's there, okay? We're gonna later attach this to the line. That's the next step. So here's our basket, nice and secure, and I can put my minifigure in there, okay? So he can hang on there, my astronaut can hang on there. And then the next thing that we need to do is we need to make the line. Now, you are probably gonna use whatever string you have available, I imagine. And I've got a roll of string here. You can also use yarn, but I do want to recommend, I just do want to let you know that the different types of strings, the thicker the string, the more friction there's going to be, which means that you're not going to have as much speed. If you are fortunate enough to have a few different types of string, you can try a few different types of zip lines and see which string is really working the best, okay? So what I'm using today is I am going to use 2 different types of string, and I also have them, I'm going to have them attached a little bit differently. So now how long does your zip line need to be? That is entirely up to you. That depends on where you want it to reach to, and also obviously how much string you have. All right, so I'm going to take my string here. I'm going to use this string and I'm going to attach it to the back of my chair. So I'm pulling off about as much as I think I need. You always want to, before you cut, you want to make sure you have extra, right? Because you can always make it shorter, but you can't. I have to tie a whole new piece of string if I want to make this, if I wanted to make it longer. Now, a couple of places, there are 2 places you can attach your string to. You could either, actually there's a whole bunch of places you can attach your string to, but see, I've got mine attached there on the wall with some duct tape. That's one way you can do it if you want to make it really high. Otherwise, what I like to do is if you have a chair that has, the back of the chair has a place where you can tie a string to, that's also ideal. So I'm going to use the back of my chair. So my chair has these holes right here. So I can use these to attach my string. So I thread my string through and I'm going to tie my knot. I'm going to tie a double knot so that it's really nice and secure. So for my double knot, in case you don't know, basically this is going to be a square knot. I'm going to take one string and cross it over the other, and then I'm going to pull that end right through that circle, okay? Because when I cross it over, make sure you can see this. When I cross it over, basically I'm making a hole here. So then I take that shorter part of my string and I pull it through that hole and I pull it twice. And if I do that twice, then I've got a square knot. Okay, I'm going to turn my chair this way because I want my zip liner to travel this direction. Now, for the other end of the string, that again is your call, depending on how long, or I want you guys to play with the angles. And now, again, I'm going to do the same thing when I attach this to the string. I want to thread it around so that it's nice and secure and that it's not going to fall off. Okay. Actually, he was pretty good. He stayed in the cup that time. If I make it really steep like this, he goes pretty fast, but I can also give him a much more leisurely ride. Oh, he's not going fast enough. Okay, so what you want to do is play with this to see what is the right angle? What is the perfect angle? That he's going fast enough, that he's not getting stuck, but he's also not falling right out either. Okay, so you don't want him to be too fast. So you can determine, you can see that the angle is going to determine the speed that he travels. And this is what I mean by the angle, whether it's nice and nice, slow, leisurely zip line down, here we go, or if we want it fast and furious, like almost straight down, then he goes a lot faster. Okay, so that's up to you. Also, if you decide to attach it to the wall like I've done, let me just turn that over there, then he's going to have he can have a longer ride and still go faster, right? So I'm going to take this off of here, can actually just unthread it through here. Now I also have a different string here. This string is kite string, and I find the kite string to be much smoother, so it's going to be a faster ride if we travel on the kite string for sure. All right, so I've made like a little seat belt for him. So I have his arms over. So you remember when we tied it? When we tied it on, you see how there's two strings here? I've put his body under here, but then I put his arms over that string. So it's like I have a little seat belt for him. So he can stay there securely, hopefully, and not fall out. All right, so let's try this one. This is much higher, and here we go. Oh, he fell out. I have to work on a better system to keep him in there. Maybe you wanna tape your little guy in there. Maybe you wanna tie another string around him so that he stays securely in there. Get in there. Okay. And there we go. Oh, and he's bouncing right out. All right. So now I need to think like an engineer. I need to design this a little differently. So what I thought was secure is not secure. So this is the reason why when you go to the amusement park and you ride in a roller coaster, you should feel rest assured that there have been many, many trials on that roller coaster before people are allowed to actually board that roller coaster. There have been engineers who tried it out, practiced it over and over and over. Oh, that's not going to work. We got to go back and do something different. That's not going to work. Let's try it again. So my astronaut in my little basket right here is not secure. My line is secure. My carabiner is secure, so the basket isn't falling, but he is falling out. So I need to figure out a better way to keep him securely in here. I think I tried the arms over here, but he still seems to be falling out. I'm going to tuck him way in there. I'm going to have him sitting now and see if that's going to make a difference so that he's not going to pop out. There we go. Now he is much more secure. Okay, so that's a pretty fast ride. And I can continue this as far as I want, as long as I've got the distance for it, okay? You can then secure this to a chair if you want to. I can take the other end of my chair here and tilt that down so that you can see. If I secure this line here, then I'll have a nice line. Gonna tie this through this hole. And again, I'm always gonna use I'm always gonna use that square knot, that double knot. So I cross it over, I have the hole, and then I take my loose end and pull it through the hole and pull it down like that, okay? So now, the cool thing about this is so NASA is currently working on a lunar crater observation and sensing satellite. It's called LCROSS for short. It stands for Lunar Crater Observation and Sensing Satellite. Okay, so basically that's going to operate along a zip line as well, and it's going to it's going to be dropped into a crater on the moon. So as you know, the moon has lots of craters that were created by they were created by the rocks in space that have smashed into the moon, and when they do this, they send up plumes of dust. Okay, so basically what NASA now, what they're trying to do is, the goal is they want to try to find out if there's water on the moon. So now that's going to take, they can't, they could, I guess if they were to land on the moon and dig for water like we find water on Earth, that would take an incredibly long time to try to find water on the moon. So what they're doing instead is they're going to actually launch an object to land right in the center of a crater where they believe there might be some water. It's going to send a plume of dust up into the sky, up into the air, and they're going to analyze that dust. And if they can find any evidence of water in that dust, then they're going to theorize that there's water on the moon. Okay, So how are they going to do this, right? So they're going to need to use a zip line. And not only now we're not only just designing a zip line for fun to get from one location to another, but the really tricky thing here is that they need to be very, very precise as to where that object is going to land. Okay, right? They want it to land right in the center of the crater. So I've got here an experiment that you guys can try. I have here a tray of flour. I like to call this moon dust. So you can play with this and you can make some different craters in here. But we can actually, what we really want to do is start off with our tray of flour being nice and smooth. Okay, so let's make that tray of flour nice and smooth. Okay, I like to put it on a cookie tray because that'll keep, because basically we're going to make some dust here. We're going to have it kind of flowing outside of our smaller tray. So we want to maintain the dust around the house, right? So so that's why I recommend putting it on something larger like that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to try to make some craters on the moon. And to do that, I need some marbles. Okay, so what happened was when the moon was originally formed, it was nice and smooth, right? It's not nice and smooth anymore. It's filled with craters. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some marbles and we're going to drop them from different heights into the tray of moon dust. And you should see when I pick it up, you see that the crater has formed there, okay? And that's how craters have been formed on the moon, by these giant rocks that are hurtling through space all the time, and they smash into the moon. And over time, the moon has gotten that pock-marked surface. Now, the Earth has the same thing. The Earth looks like that as well, but the only difference is that on the Earth, we don't see it as much because the Earth is covered with oceans. The Earth is covered with grass and plants and trees, and so most of those craters are not really exposed anymore. And through all that decomposition and the churning up of the soil on the Earth, we no longer see those craters like we do on the moon. So another thing that I'd like you to try is take your flour and put it into one big mountain, if you can. Pile it up into one big tall mountain, okay? Make sure that your flour is nice and loose. And we just want to pile it up like this so we have one big mountain, okay? And then what we're going to do is dust that off. We take our marble and we're going to drop it. Boom. Did you see all the flour that shot out of that? Okay, so that basically is what they're trying to do right now on the moon. They want to drop something right on the right spot so that it sends a shoot of a plume, actually, of flour up into the air so that they are able to analyze that dust and find out if there is any water on the moon. All right, so we need to do this. How on earth are we going to do this with a zip line? All right, so once again, you can take your marble out or your round object, whatever you've got, and you want to make that mountain again in your flour. And what you want to try to do is to get that marble to land right on that spot so that it can send a plume of dust up into the air. So how are we going to do that? We're going to need a pretty good zip line, okay? So what I'm going to recommend for this is that we have a zip line with a front and a back so that you're not holding one end. You want one end, just like the one that I made before, that I showed you before, that you have it basically perhaps attached to a wall. Be careful with the kind of tape that you're using. You can see that I've now got flour all over my pants. So yeah, we want to set this up like this so that it's touching the wall. I'm going to just adjust my camera. Okay, if you're not comfortable using the flour, the container of flour, you can always use a piece of paper like this and draw a target on it, and then see if you can get your zip line or your object to land right on that target. Okay. Okay, so now instead of having instead of having an astronaut inside my basket, I'm putting in my marble that I know when it drops on here, right on my hopefully you can see this, right on my mountain right here, it's going to send up a plume of dust because I've tested that out already. And I know that that's going to send up a plume of dust if it lands right there. So now the trick is to use my zip line to get my marble to land right on that spot. Now, how am I going to do that? Well, I know that this is where my zip line is going to end. Okay, when I send it up here and I release it, that's where it's gonna end right here. Okay, so I want to adjust my tray so that it's as close to, as close to that as possible. Okay, so now how am I going to get my marble out? Well, I can tip this, right? Oh, okay, not exactly. If I tip it and I use my hands to tip it, that's not so, you're not going to be able to do that, right? But what we can do is we could attach another string over here, perhaps to the bottom, and I could tip it. That's one thing that I could do. The other thing that I could do is, what if I made a little trap door in here, big enough for my marble to fall out? So maybe when my marble is traveling fast, it's not going to fall out. But if I make a little trap door in here, it might fall out. So that's what I'm going to try. That's what I'm going to attempt to do now. Okay, so after quite a few failed events, what I have come up with is I have now attached a second string to the bottom of my cup here. Okay, the string has to be at least the same length as your zip line because it should be up at the top. So imagine you're up here on your spacecraft and you're launching this, and you need something from this spacecraft to be able to get the marble to land on the spot that you want to. Okay, on exactly the spot that you want to. So what's going to happen is I'm going to hope that it's going to do it on its own. But if it doesn't, I have an alternate plan, which is that I can release it with, I can pull the back of my cup with this string right here. So I'm up here at the top of my line. I'm going to release it. And here it comes. Oh, the marble did fall out that time, but it missed it completely. Okay, so here's where my marble landed. And it didn't quite make it. So, but since it fell back here, this time I'm going to try to move this back a little bit. Okay, so let me see what happens now when I release it. Whoops. Okay, so it didn't come out that time. So what I'm going to do is there. So when I pull back on this string, my marble falls out. That was pretty close. So it wasn't quite exactly where I wanted it, but it was close. And I'm gonna count that as a success. So I hope that one of your takeaways in watching this video is that, especially with engineering, it takes an incredible amount of perseverance to have any kind of success. You have to do it over and over and over again. And it doesn't work the first time. You got to adjust it. You got to make adjustments. You got to make fixes. You got to do this over and over. And most of the people who have had success, when you listen to them and you listen to their stories, they always say, there were times when they just were ready to give up. And it's usually just before, the time that you're really just about to give up is usually just before you get your final breakthrough and it actually works and you have success. So I hope you guys had a lot of fun. I hope you continue to have a lot of fun. And I know you're going to have some frustrations too, but all I can say is hang in there, keep trying, do your best, and eventually you are going to get there. You are going to have a success that you're happy with. Okay, so keep working on your zip lines, make adjustments, try to get it to land on a target any way that you can, and just have a good time. Okay, thank you so much. And please don't forget, if you have pictures or videos or even questions or feedback that you want to share with me, my website is stemtastic.net, and my email address is stemtasticfun@gmail.com. Okay, thanks everybody. Enjoy. See you soon.